Welcome to Next to Madison, a podcast to help you live your best life. Hey, welcome back to another episode of Next to Madison. I am your host, Madison Malloy, and on this episode, we are talking about the history, I want to say history of comedy, a book written by a group of very funny joke writers and comedians. It is called Ha Ha History, where they have taken some amazing pieces of history and actually written jokes around them. So you can go and get a snapshot based on your birthday or whatever day of the week it is. It became an Amazon bestseller when it first came out, doing very, very well. And we kind of talk about the inspiration behind the book. And then we talk about kind of, how comedy has evolved over the years and where it's going and the rise of social media stars and how it's important to have talent too, to make sure you're staying. So this is a fun comedy episode. If you really want to kind of get into the history of comedy with the writers of Ha Ha History, this episode is definitely for you. So we will be right back after our message. Please don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe. And if any of the episodes resonate with you, please share. We want to get out to as many people as we can so we can make them happier, healthier, and wealthier. So I appreciate each and every one of you for tuning in every week. Don't forget, if you're listening to this on audio, that we also have a YouTube channel. Please subscribe to us there. And you can actually watch the people that are speaking. So if you want to say, I wonder what that person looks like, or I wonder what shitty outfit Madison's wearing today, you can actually find out on the YouTube channel. So we'll be right back after this brief message with our episode. Enjoy the show. Hey, it's Madison Malloy. I'm excited to announce that my new book, Time to Lighten the Fuck Up, is now available online and in stores. You can pick up your copy today by going to Amazon or BarnesandNoble.com. This new book is a humorous self-help guide to help you remove the obstacles that are holding you back so you can take things less seriously and live a more enjoyable life. I'm so excited for you to read it. Now back to the show. All right, we are back with our guest. Yes, plural. It is more than one next to me on Next to Madison today. We have the authors of one of the top selling, actually, it hit bestseller on the day it came out, of Ha Ha History. It is about the history of comedy, and they are going to break it down of the inspiration of why they wrote it, what's next, and how they think comedy might evolve, and so much more. So with that being said, I'd like to bring on our guest. We've got Neil Berliner. How are you?
Hi,
Ron Phillips, Joey Novick, and another author that can't join us today, Mike Morse. So welcome, gentlemen. How are you?
Madison, thank you for having us on your podcast. Just to kick off, and I know that certainly Neil and Ron will kick in because they're without them this would not have happened. About a year and a half ago, I started subscribing to Today in History, and every single time there would be some fact, I would write some funny joke about it on Facebook. Something like today, Albert Einstein published the theory of relativity, and his Jewish mother said, "From this you can make a living." Simple, silly jokes like that. And then I thought of the idea of doing a calendar, and the first person I called, because he's like the top joke writer that I know, is Neil. Mm-hmm. And Neil loved the idea, and we conceived of, it was actually Neil's idea to take that from a calendar into an actual book and then have a joke for each day. And Neil brought in Ron, we all brought in Mike Morse to do the illustrations, and that's where it just exploded.
Yeah, well, congrats. That's amazing. So Neil, you being kind of the front runner behind this, what was the main inspiration for you to get this book out there?
Well, just to have a fun project. I mean, you can't hope for anything more than having some fun, and it was just a great process. As Joey said, I brought in two real top joke writers that I know, and
who are they? I don't know them.
Well, you see, Joey's first statement was that I was his first thought as a top joke writer. That was his first problem.
Yes.
But so I decided, let's bring in some real joke writers, So no, but bottom line, I mean, we're decent joke writers. Okay. We knew that. And we wanted to do a book that was a little different than all the joke books out there. If you go on Amazon's list of top selling joke books. I mean, a high percentage of them are dad joke books, and the others are memes and stuff like that. So we wanted to, I mean, Joey had a great idea combining historical facts with jokes. Okay. And the historical facts we use are not just like wars and presidents and stuff like that. We do entertainment and technology and science and sports. So we go into from the beginning of recorded history, we look at all these areas and we pick an event that happened from January 1st to December 31st. And we did include February 29th as well. So we have 366 jokes in the book and about all kinds of historical things that happened. And then we do some like modern kind of twist joke on it. And one thing I got to say is that I always hated history as a kid. You know, I thought it was very boring. Dates and memorization and generals and wars. I could never get them straight. So
see, this is why I wanted Neil to be part of this, because Neil wanted the book to go from January 1st to December 31st. I was thinking it should go from December 31st to January 1st, which only would have been 2 days. Neil had the idea to do it the entire year, which was much better than my idea.
Well, that's why you bring in consultants.
There you go.
Well, thank God. Thank God for Neil, right? Well, that's so great. And you know what? You bring up a good point where history can be boring and it can be mundane. And then when you get out of school, you forget most of what you learn. But you have to know history, because if you erase it, it's doomed to repeat itself. So it's kind of a nice refresher for adults to not only have a refresh in comedy, but also get to laugh at the same time. So it's a brilliant thing.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
No, I said I never really thought of the book as one to teach people history, you know, but as I was reading through it, and I thought to myself, you know, this is kind of a funny way for people to remember and be reminded of all the important things that happened, you know, just with the joke attached to it.
Yeah. And if you think about it, well, first of all, we have gotten feedback from historians and history teachers who say, we love this because it's a great way to, you know, combining jokes and history is a great way to teach these kids, keep them interested.
Yes, and they usually will remember it when the humor is attached.
Right, you'll remember the things you like to learn about, you know, or there's a joke attached to it. So I think it could really be an educational tool, actually. You know, if we get involved with, you know, the educators, the history educators, and if you think about your favorite teachers in school, okay, forget whatever topic, history, science, whatever, it was always the teacher who made it funny or interesting in a way. It was they went beyond the subject matter, you know.
Yep.
And let me add, I am the only one here that has an actual history degree.
How did you do with that? Did you make any money with that?
I wanted to be a school teacher, then halfway through school, halfway through college, I realized I hated children. So
yeah, that's
I ended up becoming a software engineer. I worked at NASA, I worked at American Red Cross. I've had a good career, but history degree was not useful.
Well, good. I'm glad you didn't use it, because you made more money, and now you can use it to make more money.
You know,
and I've done everything in comedy world.
I also remember, you know, when I was a kid, you know, we're talking a long time ago, there was a cartoon in the Stone Age.
I can't remember when you were a kid.
And when a kid, are you kidding? You know, when I was a kid, there was a cartoon called Sherman and Peabody, and it was on the Rocky and Bullwinkle show, and they would travel through time with his Wayback Machine, and they would go back in time. There would be something funny that would happen, but it was based on a real occurrence. It was the same thing with, I remember Schoolhouse Rock. You know, we go into history. So I kind of look at our book, because there are so many possibilities here. You know, we're talking about a book, a sequel, other possibilities of Ha History Sports, Ha History Scandal, Ha History Hollywood. And also there's the possibility of taking some of these of Mike Morse's cartoons, his illustrations, and maybe animating them with the joke. There's so many different possibilities here that all have the core of Ha History as a product.
Yeah.
One other thing I wanted. I'm sorry, I don't want to talk over people, but you know, I tend to do that. Anyway, another aspect of this is that, given that you have a joke every day, it's a good birthday gift in a way, because everybody says their thing, whatever they're selling, is a great birthday gift. But with this, you can go to your birthday joke or your anniversary joke. You can go to the day of the year that corresponds with your birthday or anniversary. So
Yeah. No,
let's throw that.
exactly. It's almost like this Jesus book I have in my nightstand. You go each day, and it's a prayer. So very different, but each day
Yes.
you can get a snapshot. So I can go to my Jesus, and then I can go to my history joke.
That
Yeah.
would be very important to have the Jesus book right next to the book written by a couple of Jews. I think that's a very important dichotomy.
Oh, but wait a minute. Wait a minute. Ron
Well,
and Mike
Jesus
are
is
not
my
Jews.
favorite Jew. Then you guys
No,
are
no.
my second, but Jesus is
That's
my favorite.
fine. Jesus is my favorite Jew. No, but I wanted to also make a correction here. It is okay for two Jews to overtalk one another. It is not okay for a Jew to overtalk a Gentile. So I think that is just want to make sure this.
I just recently found
That's
out I never met my father. It turns out, according to 23andMe, my father was Jewish. So now I'm a Jewish comic. That's a lot of pressure.
Welcome.
Now you have to
Welcome
be really, really funny. Yeah, because Jewish comics are very funny.
Ron, I want to officially welcome you to the group. Welcome to the tribe.
Thank you.
Hey.
You are my boy. I don't know.
I can't believe you did 23andMe. Now you cannot murder anybody. Because that's how they're cracking all the codes.
That's your
Yeah,
DNA.
I like that.
Not your DNA.
You know,
So Madison,
23andMe, actually, true story. I connected with my birth mother's family. It's been a wonderful thing.
Oh, that's wonderful. Yeah, there's a lot of good
so
that's really
interesting.
come out of it.
Yeah.
I was going to do, I wasn't sure if I was Jewish or not. I was going to do 23andMe. And then I saw what the cost was, and I thought it was too much. And I said, boy, I am Jewish. It was too much of a price. Too
I think
expensive.
so you don't even have to do it.
There you go. I read too many conspiracy theories, and I won't even let people scan my eyeballs. I'm like, nope. So
Nope,
I'm out.
Not at all. Not at all. So, a couple of things that we have planned for the future. We can also talk about. I mean, we wrote so many jokes. There was so many good jokes that came out of the first round. We decided to actually do a sequel. High History, a sequel, and where Neil and we're putting that together.
Okay.
And the sequel is being done so quickly, it should be done even before the first book. That's how quickly we're working on the sequel. So that's how fast.
Oh, that's great. I love that.
And
it's kind of like getting the first one out and then you're good to go, but you just had another book launch.
Yeah, Ron launched a second book. Like, wow, boom, immediately. I can't believe it.
Uncle Ron, you're an idiot. It came out of a series of posts on social media called Storytime with Uncle Ron, which are all true stories from my life. Mostly I get drunk, I commit felonies, I lie to cops. So I turned them into a book, 120-page book.
Yeah. So Madison, I got to tell you about this guy, Ron, okay?
I love it. Okay.
So I'm down in Florida. I live in Florida now. So I'm at this club, now defunct, Fort Lauderdale, Florida, Fort Lauderdale Comedy Club. And I'm in the audience, actually. And I see this guy, Ron Bo Phillips, up there. And he's like killing it. I never heard of this guy. I said to myself that day, it must have been about 10 years ago, I said, I'm definitely going to wind up friends with this guy. He's so funny. I'm absolutely going to be friends with him. And now we're doing a book together. But the way I describe Ron is he out Kramer's Kramer. That's like the description of this guy. If you think you think of all the insane stuff that Kramer did, the real Kramer, right?
Yeah.
Ron, far and away, is so much more outlandish.
That's the other thing about this group, that we've never been in the same room. And I don't know when the podcast will launch, but on April 21st at the Broadway Comedy Club in New York, we're doing a book signing and comedy show.
Wonderful.
And I think Ron's going to fly in from California. I'm already in the New York area. Neil will, come up from Florida, but the four of us will be on a show. And I think that's actually the first time we'll all be in the same room together.
Well, there's another reason for that, though. There are a few restraining orders going on right now, but when they're lifted, we will be able to be in the same.
We'll all be able to be together. And, one of the things that I found in the book is that it was a great deal of fun to work with Ron, Mike, and Neil, just together, bouncing off ideas off of one another. And we started off by having like a once a month meeting of just getting things started. And I was just on the phone earlier today with Neil, and I said, I'm a procrastinator. I have ADD. It sometimes takes me months just to get up out of bed. And with Neil was so enthusiastic about this project that I think it's really a tribute to him that it got done. Because if it was up to me entirely, right now I would be on a podcast going, okay, we got to get through March jokes. As soon as we get through the March jokes, we'll be able to publish.
Well, I think that's great. I was going to ask that. How did you guys divide and conquer? Because it's a
We
lot of
cranked it
authors
out
on
in
a
8
book.
months flat.
It's a very well, it's
Wow.
amazing. The team really worked out really well.
Yeah.
Joey is also an entertainment lawyer. Okay. So he did all the legal for us. We got everything. And I also got to give a shout out to Sharon Rothberg, who is the CEO of Comedy Cures. She liked the idea, and she said, look, you got to get legal down pat. You got to lock up all the website names, and any copiers. So he locked up all the names that sounded like haha history. And, we really dotted our I's and crossed our T's, and Joey did all that legal stuff. Now, Ron has expertise in technical stuff. He is an IT guy. He's worked at NASA. Don't go by what he looks like and what he sounds like. He's a bright, guy, and he's educated, So there he is. And,
he's very modest.
And he did all the tech stuff. In addition, my son did some tech stuff too, actually helped us out. Could give him a shout out too. But Ron, in spite of having had a stroke 2 years ago, he's back from a stroke. He's going to fly from California to New York to do our show. He contributed a ton of jokes. And whenever we needed a date, whenever we had a date where there was not a good joke, Ron and Mike would, boom, in 15 minutes, I'd have great material. It was amazing. It was just a fantastic collaboration. It really was. It was like magic.
Yeah. Well, when you work with the right team, things get done. Yeah.
And, like I was saying in the beginning, you have no idea when you do a project, like any of these projects that we all do, you don't know what's going to happen with it. Like, we could have written this book, put it on Amazon. Ron told me there were 6,000 joke books on Amazon. We had no idea anybody was going to like it or look at it. But I went on Amazon. I wasn't even sure if it was up on Amazon at the end of January. I went to Amazon, put in High History. I see it's number one in new releases. I almost had a stroke myself that day.
And the amazing thing is, Neil Berliner wrote 3,200 of those 6,000 books. So I know it's partially. Well, part of the thing is, part of the thing is we each have a very different background. Like my background as a stand-up comedian is from the world of improv. I was trained as an improviser and taught improv for many years. I've never been a joke writer per se. It's more conceptual and it's more personal stories. Neil is, by the way, Neil and I went to the same high school. We went to the same high school and I know Neil for many years. We went to the same high school, we went to the same Jewish community center, and we had the same rabbi who we both didn't like, but that's another story.
True,
yeah, that's true. So each having a different background, Michael being a wonderful illustrator, Neil being a phenomenal joke writer, my background more as an improviser, personal stories, and Ron coming very powerful and dry sense of humor, I think made for a very good combination.
Yeah, I think it's great. And then where did the other guy who couldn't join us? Where did he come in? Was he the illustrator?
Mike Morris is a really good headlining comedian, plays mostly in the Northeast. His pedigree is the Howard Stern Show. He's written a lot of stuff, song parodies, a lot for the roasts. He's written a lot for Lisa Lampanelli. He's just a real. Also, there's a show in Vegas now called Rouge. It's a show like Cirque du Soleil, but X-rated, and he wrote all the jokes for that. That it's running right now in Vegas. Yeah, so Mike is like a powerhouse. He's a fantastic. He writes for many of the Comedy Central roasts.
Yeah.
So, I mean, he's a great.
But unfortunately, you got us instead.
Yeah. Hey, I'll take it. He said, unfortunately, you got us instead, but I'll take what I can get. So I want to ask you guys, because you wrote a haha history book, where do you each think, as comedians and being in the business, how do you think comedy will evolve in the next 5 to 10 years? Like, what do you
I
think will
think
be
it's already
different?
going to, sorry, Neil. I think it's
Let
already
Ron
going
talk.
in a direction. It's becoming less homophobic, less racist. It's becoming less hacky. It's becoming more evolved, and I think it's a good direction.
You know,
Okay. Yeah.
the show with oh, I forgot her name. It's actually Lorraine Newman's daughter who played the comedy writer on the show Hacks.
Hack. Oh, yeah.
I'm sorry.
No, I said hacks.
Yeah, Hacks. Yeah. One of the things I loved about that show is the dichotomy between this woman who is a stand-up comedian in Las Vegas and, looking to modernize her act, hiring a very hot, new, very young comedy writer. And the parallel between the two of them really shows where comedy is going. And,
Okay.
in the older comedian in her time was a real glass ceiling breaker as a woman. They, talk about she was the first one to have her own talk show and so on. And the younger comedian is writing comedy. So I love her perspective because I'm 68 and I love watching comedians in their 20s and seeing what they make fun of in my generation. It really opens up an entirely new area of comedy. I think Ron is really right, is that, jokes about your mother-in-law,
Yeah.
gays and lesbians and people of color, really has been replaced by something that's a more higher concept. And I think that's really where the future will go. But always
Okay. So
funny.
more observational, but also more highbrow.
Yes.
All right. But
Yeah.
and also to answer
Okay.
I think to answer your question too, you have to look at the age of person looking at the comedy, the age of person doing the comedy. Like my kids are really tuned into comedy; they're in their 20s. But if I tell them about certain comedians, they'll say, yeah, but we don't really watch that guy or that woman. We they have their own people. There are many streams of comedy. There are many outlets. Like my kids, for instance, like Nathan Felder, who did Nathan for Me several years ago on HBO, and now he
Okay.
has a show called The Rehearsal, and it's hilarious, it's fantastic, it's unbelievable. But I think just like music has many streams now,
Mhm.
I think there's so many different avenues to be creative, and I guess it was always that way. But now with Netflix and all the avenues we have, all the outlets and podcasts, just about anybody of any age and any background can do this, and we'll get an audience basically.
As
Yeah.
somebody
Yeah.
who
I
does-
mean,
sorry,
you,
Madison.
oh, no worries. I was going to say you've
Go
got,
ahead.
the rise of obviously the social media. You've got TikTokers now who have huge followings and, they're selling out comedy club spots, even though they may or not be
Absolutely.
ready. And it's kind of like, well, good for them. I
Right.
wish
Well,
I
See
had
that-
TikTok when I
I had
started.
Gianmarco Ceresi on my podcast a few weeks ago. Okay. And when he sold out, I think it was Vinnie Brand's club, the Stress Factory in
Yeah.
Connecticut. So on the marquee, it said Gianmarco Ceresi, but it didn't say Tonight Show or Jimmy. It didn't say on from Kimmel. What it said was Gianmarco Ceresi, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram. That was the marquee.
Isn't
So
that crazy?
that's what sold the tickets. Being a
Yeah.
star.
But but one of the things
unbelievable.
is if you go back on YouTube and watch, and there's a real lesson in this. Watch the very first Tonight Show spot of Seinfeld, of Gary Shandling, of David Brenner, of who else?
We get it, you're old.
Dangerfield.
The danger, the very early spots and some of the material that you'll see Seinfeld doing from 35 years ago will make you cringe. Why? Because when he did it, it was breakthrough, it was brand new, but it's been
Yes.
repeated. It's the subject matter and the themes have been repeated so much that he's become a standard, and it's just not as innovative or funny anymore. But the people who are doing comedy now, I'm just wondering if 30 years from now, when we watch some of their comedy, go, geez, I can't believe we even, it was cringeworthy, now. So I
But
think
that happens with.
I can
but that
say
happens with all.
as a working
Yeah.
comic, I'm out there every week doing live shows. there's a definite bifurcation in the audiences. Because I live in the California wine country. So I do two kinds of audiences. I get tourists who are coming in who are generally older, and I get young college kids. And they're completely different audiences. The college kids are great. I love those audiences. The young audiences, they will laugh at dark humor. They will laugh at things that are inclusive. They'll laugh at things that make them think. They'll laugh at things that are about history. I do a lot of history jokes. The older tourist audiences are way more sensitive, oddly enough. They will cringe at the slightest darkness, slightest thing that
Interesting.
talks about family relationships. They're suddenly worried. The young kids are much
Yeah.
more open to comedy.
I mean, also the methods that we have of delivering comedy, it began, 60 years ago. The only place you could do comedy and television was on the Ed Sullivan Show.
Mhm.
Everybody had to be clean. That evolved into the Tonight Show, having all young comedians on the show, but you still had to be clean.
Yeah.
HBO was the first time that someone like Robert Klein or George Carlin could do an hour of material and didn't have to rely on joke as much. And then, we have today Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, where the artist really controls the material. Why? Because he or she is controlling the method by which you're getting it. And they've completely cut out the middleman of
Yeah.
having to have someone else promote it for them. Why? Because of social media, you have an explosion of some of these people who can pack a comedy club for no other reason other than that they have a huge social media following. Whether
Yeah.
they're funny in their club or not, they can put people in the seats.
And also the way things are now, to be a comedian in the first place, you have to have such a command of social media to get your stuff out on all these platforms. And because if you don't do it, it's become an integral part of the job. It's become such
you
a
have
big
to.
part,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
I mean, if you are not adept at these things, let's say you're just funny, all right, who's going to know about it? Who's going to find out? Kids who
Yeah.
start, they don't have any money to hire anybody to promote them. So you have to be able to promote yourself in this way. You have to be very computer savvy and social media savvy
Yeah.
to even be considered, by venues to play in venues. These
Like Liz
Yeah.
Liz Mealy.
Yeah. She's
um,
great.
Liz Mealy, I discovered through Carol Montgomery, who was the producer of Funny Women of a Certain Age. And as I began watching Liz Mealy's comedy, I really found it very, very funny. And I discovered the first thing that she did was she self-produced her own show called, I think it was Apartment 2C or Apartment 4C. It was just her roommate, her cat, a boyfriend or two, and they would do like 10 or 15-minute videos. And I became a fan watching them. And now when I see her do stand-up, it is so reminiscent of George Carlin, and it's such smart comedy. She
Yeah.
did her own recording of a special in a comedy club, put it up on Amazon, thousands and thousands of views. And again, the thing is, she doesn't need HBO. She doesn't need Showtime.
Yeah.
She did the
it's
whole
amazing.
thing herself. And I think that there's a lot to be said. It's a lot of work.
Mhm.
No question. It's a hell of a lot of work.
Yeah, I was talking about this on another podcast too, where how it is nice because you don't have those traditional gatekeepers where you needed certain things to be able to quote unquote make it. Now you can kind of pave your own path, which is great.
You have to.
There's
Well-
obviously negative parts of social media, but there's a lot of positives. So it's you can get yourself out there and really build an audience, and then you can become almost uncancelable. So if, God forbid, somebody finds something offensive and tries to ruin you, you can't be ruined. Well, as long as you didn't murder or rape anyone,
But yeah,
because
but
you
the
have an
flip
audience.
side of that, there's
So
a
it's
flip side.
great.
to
Good
that.
thought.
There's a
Yeah.
flip
Good
side
thought.
to that too, though. You can be an expert at social media and suck comedically and be successful.
Yes.
You can be like,
That's the
if
problem.
you're a
Well,
marketer,
yes.
right?
That's true. However,
Dane
here's the
Cook,
thing, you can get
hello.
your 15 minutes of fame, but you're not going to have staying power if
Yeah.
you're not good. So it's important
Dane
to,
Cook,
yeah.
Exhibit
Yeah.
1.
Yeah.
Ron mentioned Dane Cook, and when and he even precedes any of this because he did it first on MySpace. And I
Yeah.
remember an interview with him on one of the talk shows where he talked about that he discovered he could just become friends with 1,000 people in some town. Like I think he used Raleigh, North Carolina. Like he would put up on MySpace that he was going to appear in a comedy club, and hundreds of people are coming to see him with no television exposure, no big name or
Brilliant.
recording, and if you watch his comedy, when somebody says to me that they find him funny, I cringe
Yeah.
because again I don't know if he can still put people in the seats or not, but I guess he's made his money. I mean, he's made,
Oh, he's
And
done.
his
Yeah,
brother
he's
stole
done
it.
very well. Good for him.
yeah, God bless him. But I think what Neil said is really 100% accurate, which is, there are people who can put, for example, there was a comedian named, I think his name was Dot Fan, who won the first season
Yeah.
of,
Yeah.
I did a show with that guy. He's a nice guy.
yeah, and he had about maybe 10 or 12 really funny minutes, and he was headlining comedy clubs because he won the contest. The Jim Brewer,
Okay.
America's Got Talent or
whatever television show it was, I forget the name of the show, but he couldn't follow a local middle act who was a good act because the guy only had 10, 12 minutes of great material. And then after that, he was not a club act. He was not a comedy club act. You could do an hour of killer
Yeah.
material.
Yeah, no, exactly. And yeah, you gotta be good for sure. I mean, here's the thing, it's like you were saying, you can have a big following, sell out clubs, but not be a good comedian. I mean, I feel like in today's with the internet, there's a buyer for everything. I mean,
Yes.
people are like paying off their house selling feet pictures. I didn't know this was a thing.
Selling what pictures?
Like pictures of their feet.
Oh,
This is true. This is insane. So like if somebody can make millions of dollars selling pictures of their feet, then a crappy comedian can probably sell some jokes.
it's ridiculous. But the entertainment business,
There's a buyer everywhere.
as we all know,
yes.
the entertainment business is not based on your talents, based on your connections.
Yeah.
Sadly, so
It's true.
I did nothing until my 48th birthday. I took a class on how to do comedy. A couple years later, I was in a feature film. I'm not an
Wow.
actor. I'm terrible. People who have been working for 20 years to be an actor, and I get a co-star in a feature film. It's ridiculous. Stupid.
So why do you think that was? Because you were relaxed, right place, right time, knew the right people.
Partly because I was older. There were not as many actors who were older. The voice was a big factor.
Yeah.
Director saw me doing comedy. He's like, "Oh, you can play this eccentric billionaire. You do a southern accent. Okay, great, you're in the film."
The threats were a
kinda-
big factor, Ron. The threats.
Blackmail, yeah, blackmail. I mean, I ended up on a reality show, mostly by accident, because they already filmed it. They decided it was a reality dating show on TLC called The Psychic Matchmaker. They already filmed it. They decided the guy who was on the date was a jerk. They said, "We want a fat guy in his 40s with a lot of personality." Cast director reached out to me. I go,
That's
"Well, I'm
great.
50. They go, "On the show, you're 48." And boom, I'm on a reality show.
That is
it's
hilarious.
one of the things that's funny is I became an attorney. I went to law school at the age of 47, became an attorney at the age of 50, and my entire practice is a unique entertainment practice, narrowly construed to comedy. I have a lot of comedians who I do work for, trademarks, copyrights, contracts, many comedy clubs. So I've dealt with comedians of all different levels, sometimes handling something very simple, sometimes something a little bit more complex. But what I think Ron and Neil are referring to is very accurate. I also think that sometimes comedians tend to be The younger ones tend to be very unrealistic in where they're in their success level, because then they're doing,
Right.
I actually heard one comedian say to me, I've been doing this 3.5 years. I still don't have a contract to do a major television show. And and he was
Oh my
he seemed
God.
he seemed so upset. And
Yeah.
and he's a funny guy. He's got good management and he's been going out, but he just seems so upset. I've been doing this in fact, he said this to me at the comic strip Christmas party. And
Okay.
he's one, was again, funny guy, very funny act. And I think eventually he will be some very well-known name act. I won't use the name, but I just thought that just struck me as very funny after being in the business
Come
as long as
on,
I've
his
been.
big chance. Say the name. What
Well,
the
I know.
heck?
No, no, no. I'm not gonna.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I think it's funny because I feel like when we all start out, we don't think it's going to be as long of a road as it actually is. And then you are like, but I've been doing this 2 or 3 years. And then you get to year 5 and you're like, I've hardly been doing this at all.
Hey, look,
the realism starts to
I
kind
was
yeah,
of,
on
take
set,
shape.
if you've ever been on a film set, you sit around a lot. You do nothing
Yes.
most of the day. So I'm sitting around, and these guys are sitting with me, and it's a comedy, and they're like, I know you from somewhere. I go, I don't know you. They're like, oh, I saw you in an audition. I looked at them. I've never auditioned for anything in my life. And
So
they were so sad.
you got lucky. You got lucky.
Oh,
Yeah, some people
exactly.
get lucky, but I think you kind of make your own luck. I really
I
do.
think you're
I'm
right.
I'm a big believer in that. And where opportunity comes, or luck is where preparedness meets opportunity. And you were working on your stuff, you're putting yourself out there. And also I think there's something to it when you kind of had that, I don't give a fuck what happens. I'm just having fun.
Yeah,
I work for
exactly.
NASA. I got a
Very
day
true.
job. Fuck it. And that's when more shit comes to you because you don't have that desperate energy and you're not attached to the
Same
outcome.
with dating.
Yeah, you're relaxed.
It's
If
same
you're
with
relaxed,
everything. It's same with the
right,
book
exactly.
deals, dating, anything you want to do. That's why I always, when I create stuff, I like to have, not just one thing. I like to create multiple things. And then I just say, and I not too much because I want to make sure they're all good. And then I just say, fuck it. Let's see what sticks. And more stuff is happening now versus trying to attach yourself to one thing. The tunnel vision, which I talked about in my book, will kill you, dream faster than anything.
oh yeah.
Well, what
So
you
you
said
kind of
about
naturally had it.
well,
What
what
was
you
that?
just said reminded me of a quote. When I was in med school, I had a poster on my wall. It said it was Louis Pasteur. He said, "Chance favors the prepared
Oh,
mind."
absolutely.
Okay,
Yes.
Ooh, I like that.
so it's not luck. It's true. You make your luck
You do, yeah.
and you set the stage, and by being relaxed, that's when the creativity comes out more. So when you
Well,
calm down,
the other
Exactly. And the biggest thing in comedy I know for me is like, comedy has a lot of people that suffer from, mental health issues, depression and anxiety.
Yeah.
But it requires so much confidence. And usually when you're not feeling great about yourself because you're suffering from those things, it's hard. But when you care what people think or you're nervous about what people think, that'll hold you back. So maybe that's why comedians don't get there as fast. I don't know. There could be a whole psychological
and
study on
and
this.
I'm a psychiatrist, Matt. You know that I'm a psychiatrist.
Yeah, that's right. I
Yeah,
did know that. So there
yeah. So
probably is something there. When you care what people think, you're never going to reach where you want to go.
and
You just won't, because the
I
fear will
also
hold you back.
I also want to remind you that Ron and I are not psychiatrists. We
Yeah.
did
We
not
might
go
need
to
psychiatrists.
we're not well, the other thing I
You
wanted
got
to
Neil. You got Neil.
yeah, the other thing I wanted to
they don't
bring
have
up,
insurance, so they're
we don't have
Yeah.
yeah,
Neil does not take
I'm
Obamacare.
disabled, Medicare.
Yeah.
so.
Oh gosh,
I
that's
am
hilarious.
I want to bring up also people who have done comedy an entire lifetime, then all of a sudden, because of something that happened, achieved incredible success. Some of my friends like Vic DiBitetto
Yeah.
was doing Vic I've known for 30 years. He was one of my friends from Brooklyn, again, 30 to 25, 30 years ago, starting in the business. And he was an okay comedian. He kind of exploded as a headliner. Then all of a sudden, because of these videos and the one video that he did, just exploded.
It's
Being
so
able,
great.
like
Bread and milk.
I was the bread and milk video. I was booking him regularly in my Firehouse shows. I had a comedy club called the Garden State Comedy Club. I would use him there. He did a great job. But when the bread and milk video exploded, he started filling up. Like I promoted him 3 times. Each time I turned away people because I needed a bigger venue. And now, I mean, he's doing, if you go onto his website, look at his schedule, it's just effing insane. Another person is Julia Scotti. Julia was a stand-up comedian. Rick Scotti became a transgendered woman, started doing comedy about 10 years ago, always a headliner. And a lot of people did not want to book her because she was transgendered. Semi-finalist on America's Got Talent. There was a documentary which is wonderfully funny called Julia Scotti, Funny That Way, about her transition, becoming a national headliner at the age of 66, 67, just insane after a lifetime of trying to make it in the business, just exploding into something just huge.
I think that's, it's just so great. And it goes to prove to the point that anything can happen. If you put your mind to it, you're relaxed, and certain things are just meant to be for you.
And
so,
the hardest part about
great.
becoming a transgender female comic is that final step when they cut
cutting your dick off your, is that cutting your balls off?
15% off your salary.
Do you like how he keeps it clean? And I'm like, when they cut your dick off?
Yeah.
You need your balls for comedy.
I do a lot of shows at like coffee shops and things where there are children, so I have a lot of clean comedy.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. I just don't think clean. I'm trying to, but my mind just goes down.
Good luck with that.
Goes down. Well, I'm not a comedian. I'm a public speaker now.
That's right.
So I'm good to go. I wrote a self-help book with only 24 F-bombs in it. So I think I did a good job.
You do a lot of stuff about health and fitness, and yet you have 3 guys who can't get on an elevator together.
Well, you did write a book, and that's an accomplishment. So here you are. So let's, before we wrap up, though, you guys have to share again where you can get the book, also where you can find each of you.
Okay, well, I think, Matt, we spent a lot of time self-promoting this thing, but we didn't give you any content from the book. So
we should do that.
I happen to know
that
your birthday is September 17th.
Yes.
Right. All right. I looked it up on Facebook. So
okay,
I'm going to go to September.
I'm not a stalker.
So we'll do at least one joke from the book. All we did was self-promote. I'd rather give you some content. All right. So on September 17th, 1683, Dutch scientist Antoine van Leeuwenhoek is the first to report the existence of bacteria. Mrs. van Leeuwenhoek declares, you try to raise 3 kids and keep the place spotless. That's what you get.
My favorite joke that I wrote for the book,
that was Ron's
I don't
joke.
remember the date, but because I'm an IT person, was when NASA got their first computer. The thing was the size of a house. It started calculating things wrong. So one of the scientists, Grace Hopper, who later became a Navy admiral, she took the panels off and crawled inside the machine, looked around for days. She finally found a vacuum tube that an insect had crawled down inside and shorted the pins. So she found the insect that shorted the pins, and that's the origin of the term bug.
Oh my God, I didn't know that.
Going wrong.
Oh, really?
Oh my God,
so
that's hilarious.
Can we go around very quickly and just give Neil since Neil did Madison's birthday, can we each give our birthday and read the joke from the birthday? So I will take the liberty of going first since it's my idea. June 11th.
Okay.
June 11th.
Should I do the joke?
Yeah, no.
1979, June 11th, 1979, rock and roll legend Chuck Berry pleads guilty to income tax evasion and is sentenced to 4 months in prison. While incarcerated, Berry pens the little-known song, Chucky Be Bad. Not Chucky be good, Chucky be bad. You had to do your birthday was one of the worst jokes in the fucking
Oh, well,
book.
there you
It
go.
really is.
Okay,
What's
so
your
what's yours?
birthday,
Because we
Ron?
got to wrap up.
All
Ron,
right.
when is your birthday?
Me?
Ron,
Yeah.
what's your
Come on,
birthday?
Ron.
November 19th,
All right.
1963, 3 days before JFK was killed.
Oh,
November 19th, 1895, American inventor Frederick Blaisdell patents the pencil. A year earlier, his mother had nagged him to get the lead out of your pants and invent something already. Lead pencil.
And
I
Neil, you
like
have to
it.
do
I
your-
like it.
So,
Okay, so
Madison,
you guys,
I'm sure
we have
you'll
to
be
wrap
cutting
up.
this out.
So, no.
And
So,
Neil-
where can
Neil,
we
you have to-
find each of you? Because we got to wrap
Okay.
up. So we got Haha History. You guys check it out on Amazon. Where else can they buy it? Is it Walmart?
Well, but for now, Amazon Kindle. But our live show is April 21st. Go
April
to
21st. Okay.
You can
Yeah,
also
but-
find my book on Amazon, Uncle Ron, You're an Idiot.
Okay. Gotcha.
that's all
And
I
then,
got.
so yeah, do you guys have any socials or websites you want to?
Yeah, just use-
Ronbo63 on Instagram.
Okay.
Neil
I'm just
Berliner everywhere. Neil Berliner. Comedy.com.
I have my workshops that I do for leaders called the improvisationalleader.com. I'm rebuilding that website right now, and I do workshops on improvisation for government groups, for lawyers, and so on.
Okay.
And on
Perfect.
Twitter, ELRONBO, El Ronbo.
Okay, perfect. Well, you guys, this was great. And everybody, go pick up a copy of this book on Amazon. It's a fun, quick read. You don't even have to, you can just read it by the day. So it kind of makes it, fun and exciting, and you kind of get to start your day with a joke, so to say. So it did well for a reason. Congratulations to all of you gentlemen. And thank you for everybody. You're welcome. And thanks to everybody listening, wherever you may be. We will see you next time to find out who's next.
Hey, your host here, Madison Malloy. Please make sure to subscribe to the show on all podcast platforms, and please rate and review us on iTunes and Spotify. Also, if you have any questions or comments, you can email us at contact@nexttomadison.com. I thank you again for listening. Bye.